Welcome back, everyone. It is the Bourbon Judge. Happy end of the week. Hey, you know, it's funny. It's still snow on the ground, but I can't golf. But I am happy about one thing. I was actually able to get a new wedge. So for now, I'm just dreaming about golf, I guess. But no, on a serious note, again, shout out to all the love for my 100th episode. So now we're back for number 101. All right. So what are we reviewing today? A good friend of mine, co-worker, his name is Tom. He watches the channel, all the videos and so forth. And he gave me feedback. He was like, hey, Bourbon Judge, I want to see a bourbon that's like, you know, everyday bourbon that you can find everywhere. Let's see how good it is. You know, let's call it something under $40. So Tom, my man, this episode is dedicated to you, brother. All right. So we're reviewing Maker's Mark. Now, I bought the little baby here, the little pint size. But, you know, of course, it comes in the full 750 milliliter bottle. This one right here, as I'll bring it in real quick, this is a specialty bottle, right? So this is a barrel pick that I got from one of my local spots. But I decided for this one, for the Makers, you know, I haven't actually had the Makers 46. I was like, you know what, let me just go ahead and buy the pint size, right? It was only $20 compared to the full bottle, which is 40. And we'll see whether or not how good it really is. So with that, when we think about Maker's Mark, a couple things come to mind. Number one, the company has been up and running for about 70 years, right? So Bill and Margie Samuels started the company almost 70 years ago. And when you think of Maker's Mark, you think of a couple of things. Number one, the shape of the traditional bottle, and then also this wax seal, all came from Margie Samuels, right? Because of that, she was actually inducted as the first female to the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. So shout out to Mrs. Samuels. Very cool, very impressive. And when you also think of Maker's Mark, the other thing that really comes to mind, which really stands out, is the fact that they use wheat as their second primary ingredient in the mash bill, right? So it's a wheated bourbon. So you have corn and then wheat as number two, rather than having the rye as number two. So that's really what makes Maker's Mark what it is. All right. So that's the Samuels family. And then the last thing I will say is on the front here, this little mark, you'll see the SIV. And what that stands for, the S is for the Samuels, and the IV actually stood for Mr. Samuels was thought to be the fourth master distiller in his family lineage. However, after many years, they actually found out he was number 6. Hey, it's too late. They didn't want to change it, right? No need to go ahead and go back and change it. Let's just keep it SI4, right? Well, no. I'm going to go ahead and open this bad boy up. All right. Oh, man. Pause. I'll be right back. Well, folks, now we're back. That's what happens when you have technical difficulties in this bourbon life, right? Seriously, I tried to take the wax off and it just wouldn't work. Hey, it is what it is. I almost got this bad boy, so let's go ahead and continue. All right, and then we will keep this party rocking. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just, woo! I love a blind tasting. I love that sound. Nothing is like that sound. All right, so again, this bourbon comes in at about $40 for the full bottle. Again, this is a half bottle, so it's only about $20. There is no age statement on this Maker's 46, but from what I've read, it's anywhere from like 6 to 7 years, right? So we know with a wheated bourbon, for the most part, when you think of wheated bourbons, they're gonna be a little bit sweeter, and they use like a soft red winter wheat, right? A little bit softer, more toffee rather, more caramel, just traditional sweeter notes as a whole. But when you think about Makers is really like old school, right? And I mean old school, such as in, you know, so they make, well, let's say what they don't make. There are no ryes, there's no rye, they don't do any like wine finishing, there's no cab, no port, none of that nonsense, right? It's just straight up old school, good bourbon, right? That's truly what they're known for. Again, they've been around 70 years. And the majority of the time, they originally truly just had their original Maker's Mark bourbon, right? They had that for the longest time. This is actually the first new product they put out in over 50 years. 5-0. Wow. All right. So what makes Maker's Mark 46 different than the original Makers, right? A couple things. Number one, the proof on the original was 90. This one is 94. And then the major difference is that how they really make this one is they take the original Makers, they dump it, they then take very heavily seared French oak staves, put them into the barrel, and then they pour the bourbon back in, the original makers back in, and then they let it age for a couple months, right? And then they go ahead and dump it, and then obviously they make the Maker's 46. So that's what truly makes the Maker's 46 slightly different, right? Again, this is the first new product that they added in over 50 years. In addition, the only other one that they have is the cask strength, and like I just showed you on my early in the video, they do have a lot of different like barrel picks, which are barreled at barrel proof. And that's the one, again, I'll bring it back, the big boy. This is the one that I was able to acquire. And typically a lot of different liquor stores will have their own barrel pick of Maker's cask strength as well. All right, enough about that. I am ready to sip some bourbon. It's been a long ass day. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the color real quick. So as I expected, a little bit softer on the color. I mean, it's like a lighter brown, not super dark, but nice and like a mid brown, not bad at all. Almost like a very rich brown. Okay, not bad at all. Okay, let's get into the nose a little bit. Wow, I'm glad I gave it at least a couple minutes to kind of let it air out a little bit. So what I do like about the nose is, wow, it's actually quite nice. Like I said, I've had the regular Makers, I've had the barrel strength, but I've actually never had 46, oddly enough. So on the nose, I get a couple things. Wow, it's very what you would expect, right? Tons of like toffee, lots of cinnamon. It almost smells like almost like French toast, almost in a way, right? Imagine like French toast and bourbon just kind of came together and wanted to just kind of, hang out for the evening, right? It's actually really nice, I will say. For this being a little pint, a little $20 bottle, that nose is better than most $70, $80 bottles that you will find on the market, oddly enough. All right, well, it's one thing for the nose. Let's see if I'm missing anything else. So I got the toffee, some caramel, some cinnamon. Very nice on the nose. I think that's really about it. As we say, folks, cheers, salute. One thing very important I should also mention, I don't know when, in the next 24 to 48 hours, I will be launching my Patreon page, right? So be on the lookout. I will kick out a separate video just to let you know the page is truly live. Again, I appreciate all the support from everyone out there. Thank you for always watching the videos. Thanks for all the commentary. Love going back and forth. And as we say in this bourbon world, cheers, salute. Okay. Nice. Not bad at all. I need a little bit more because A, it's been a long day, and B, there's still bourbon left in the glass, so why not finish it? That actually has a nice little punch for a 94 proof bourbon. So number one, I will say everything from that nose transferred to the palate. Definitely tons of like, which this one's interesting on the back end, tons of like toffee, the caramel, some cinnamon. It does kind of remind me of like that, almost like that French toast experience, right? Almost like if you're eating French toast and drinking traditional bourbon, they kind of work very well together. On the back end though, there's almost like a fruit, which I didn't pick up in the nose. So that's like, I guess like the only thing that kind of stands out slightly different. There's almost like a raspberry almost in the back there, or some type of a berry in the back. Very unique, very different. There is a drop left in my glass, and oh gosh, I can't leave that in my glass. Let me just go back and get this. Okay, all right. So, Tom, my man, you asked me, let's review a bourbon that everyone can find, easily available, easily affordable. How good is it? Folks, the verdict is in. I gotta keep it real. It's a buy. Folks, I'm not gonna lie. For a $20 bottle or $40 for the full size, this bourbon is actually damn good. I'll tell you a couple reasons. Number one, everything from the nose transferred to the palate, which is very unique. Number two, at 94 proof, this is actually really, really good. It packs a very decent punch for a 94 proof bourbon. It just kind of goes to show you that you truly do not always have to spend 80, 100 or more than that on bourbon, right? This is an example of great quality bourbon each and every day. Well, folks, as we say, cheers, salute. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching the channel. Let me know what you want to see next week. Peace.